I'm Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people hop onto the tech sales path and ride that wave to more freedom and fulfillment in their life. We've got a great guest today, Kennie. She broke into tech sales with no experience working at a top company, Qualtrics, as an inbound SDR. We're going to talk about what life was like before and after tech sales, how she broke in, what the transition was like, and how she's been successful, and even how she's coaching others to lift them onto the path. If you guys get value out of the video, of course, give that like button a love tap because the YouTube algorithm loves that too. And we'll show this video to more people who could benefit from the message. And of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly videos committed to your success in tech sales and in life. Kennie, thanks so much for being here. How's your day going so far?
You're welcome. It's going pretty good so far. It's hot.
Oh yeah. Where are you based out of? Are you also in Texas? I forget.
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
What's the temperature?
104 probably.
Holy cow. Yeah, Austin has been blazing hot.
Oh, you're in Austin.
I'm actually not far from you, which I don't know if we ever talked about that. So at some point, let me know if you're in Austin, and I'll let you know if I'm in your neck of the woods. Texas is a great state, y'all. If you're looking to get into tech sales, there's just a great market. So many startups are booming over here, and there's a lot of big tech firms. But Kennie, I wanted to dive into it. What was like, it's kind of fun to look at the before and the after of breaking into tech sales. What was the before like?
Ooh. So I originally went to Louisiana Tech University, but then like COVID happened and everything. I realized I didn't want to be there anymore. Like I didn't want to attend in-person classes. I wanted to have remote classes. So I stayed with my mom for like 2 years. And in those 2 years, I was able to transfer to another college, Wiley College. So I was able to do online school for that last year, and I was able to graduate that last year. And before that, well, at my time at Wiley, I was doing an internship with a girl named Ruby. She has a YouTube channel called Lavish Ruby. A lot of people know about her. She's very popular. She actually just started posting back on Instagram now. So I was watching a lot of her videos and then doing her internship and just kind of like navigating life, not paying rent, making only $500 every like 2 weeks at a recruiting company. I loved them though. They were great. I got a lot of good experience there. I learned how to use Zoom info and I learned how to use LinkedIn Recruiter, which is kind of similar to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that was a very easy way to transition. I was an operations intern for Ruby because I was really interested in that. I was originally going to be a trading intern for her because I actually do have some trading experience. I put it on the back burner though because I just really wanted to get a job, get out of my mom's house because I was 24, living with my mom. It was time for me to get out. But the only reason why I found out what tech sales was because Ruby has a friend named Kayla. I've also made a video on Kayla on my TikTok. Her name is Kayla Burke. She is in enterprise sales. Yeah. So she's their friends and they're in Georgia. Yeah. So I didn't even know what it was. And I was looking at her stuff and I was like, oh, she does sales. I've never seen, yeah, she's insane. And I had, number one, had never seen a woman in sales, let alone a black woman in sales. So that was just really inspiring for me. And that's when I discovered CourseCareers. After that, there were ads everywhere for it. I was just like, I'm not doing this. Yeah, I wasn't doing it. I mean, like I liked Troy's, his presence and everything like that. And I was just like, well, I'm only making $500 every 2 weeks. I'm going to see if I like this course. I did the 2-week trial. Ended up loving the course, right? Didn't know where it was going to take me, but I just wanted to have it because I just had a degree in interdisciplinary studies. I thought I wanted to do kinesiology until they said something to me about cadaver labs. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. No, I wasn't going to do that.
I had an internship at a company called Arthrex. They're a medical device company. And I went in those cadaver labs. It smells so weird. I mean, you're looking at like hips and like one of the legs had like a tattoo on it. And you could see hair, like, sorry guys, too much information, but nice.
Ooh.
Like, yeah. Gross.
I looking back, I kind of regretted not going to tech for business because my dad's more business oriented and I actually really like what he does. And I was like, oh, dang, I kind of wasted my degree, but I ended up getting the degree in interdisciplinary studies because it prepares you for any area of life at Wiley College.
Yes.
So I finished the course. I was kind of, not really taking it too serious at first. I was kind of like in and out of it, but then eventually I just got really committed to it because I was watching a lot of videos and I came across you, then I came across Trent, and I came across Patrick, and I came across Cyrus,
Yeah.
who I watched a lot of his videos, but I watched Trent mostly, more than anybody. And I don't even know what it was necessarily about his videos that just really stuck out to me. It may have just been because he just was like consistently, like just always in my recommended more than anybody. And
He does a
so
great, very committed.
he's extremely committed, and he's actually really inspiring for me. And then when I met you, it was just kind of like, okay, I think I'm in the right space, because this is actually a very, like a lot of resourceful people, a lot of people willing to network, a lot of people willing to help you. And so at that point was obsessed with getting a job at Qualtrics because of Trent. I was like, that's my top company. That's where I really want to work. I was interviewing for another company. The day they were about to tell me that they wanted me to finish the interview process or whatever at the other company, I was just like, no thanks. Because I just had this reason. I just had like a feeling in my gut that I was going to get the job at the other one, at Qualtrics. I ended up getting it. It was like a month and a half long interview process, but I wanted to work there so bad that I
Yes.
just stuck through it anyway. And I shut myself. I'm a homebody. I really don't like going out. So I just was always sitting in my mom's room, either doing classwork or doing course careers or researching things on YouTube, documenting all the resources that I had. I redid my resume 5 times. I kid you not.
Wow.
5 times. 5 times, because it was at first it was like more colorful, then other people were like, don't do that, and so I kind of
Yeah.
like dimmed it down a bit, and then I also reworded some words in there to make it sound and look better, and then that's when I optimized my LinkedIn, looking at YouTube videos, looking at other people's LinkedIns, what they look like. And I eventually fixed it to where now people are looking at my LinkedIn to be able
Yeah.
to optimize theirs. And when I got the offer, I got it. Let's see, I started Course Careers technically in June, but I didn't get really serious about it till July. I finished in August. Got my offer letter October, but my start date wasn't going to be until February. But then my recruiter was like, "Do you want to start earlier?" I was like, "Yes." So I was able to start in December, but when I got the message that I got the job, I didn't realize how competitive it was, because I was just having fun in my interviews. So
Yeah.
just like they didn't ask me a lot of sales questions really. Like they just asked me mostly behavioral questions, which was
I do want to dig into that
surprising.
later. By the way, that was something I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about, so that'd be helpful for the audience. But anyways,
Hmm. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, less than like 2% get accepted into this sales development program. And I was like,
yeah.
I didn't know that. Like, I just was hoping to get the job. And I beat people with sales degrees, I'm assuming. And then I started in December remote. And until I was able to relocate, I just stayed at home, saved some money, got my apartment. I even got a new car that November with my offer letter, went to a credit union.
Wow. What
Got
did
it.
you
It's on
get?
my Instagram. I got a Hyundai Elantra inline, a
Oh, I like
2020.
that one. My sister has that actually. She's got a
I
blue one.
love my
Oh, for
car.
cheers.
I got my. Oh, she
It's
probably. Oh, it's the blue one. It might be an N then. That's the more like really souped up one, or
okay.
it might
Got it.
not
Yeah.
be.
But that's a good brand, good car. But anyways, that's exciting.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
because I like when I realized I got my car, I was like, oh wow, this is real. And then I got my apartment. My stepdad helped me get that because I had just got my car, so it was like it took a hit to my credit, so I wasn't able to be on there by myself. But they didn't have an income requirement. So got my apartment, moved in February, and I've been in Dallas ever since. And I was really manifesting moving to Dallas. I was born in Killeen, but I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. I've always loved being in Texas. I could not see myself having a family, doing anything in Shreveport. It's just not a lot of opportunities there.
yeah.
It's not a tech hub or anything like that. So now I'm here with him, living our best lives and
You're living
whatnot. Oh yeah.
Oh, look at him.
Oh
Hey, he
God.
heard me. He's so cute. Yep. And I'm living a similar life with Bella over here, my
Look
puppy.
at her.
Got our little
She was just so small when we talked last.
trusted sidekicks, and they definitely help, don't you think? With because tech sales it's such an opportunity to make
Hmm.
a lot of money meet great people and build entrepreneurial skills, but there's stress, right? Like it's not easy. It's a grind. So have you found that, like, what's been the reality of the role, and do you have ways that you manage your mental health and your well-being?
So, it is definitely a grind, but it's only more of a grind if you make it more of a grind for yourself.
Okay.
Like, I can admit that I have moments where it's like I don't use my time as efficiently as I should. Or since I'm so new, I'm still fresh. So with Qualtrics, there's not just one product. There's a product and then a bunch of products that it also
Yeah.
encompasses. So and since I'm on inbound, it's like I'm not dealing with people that maybe just want one particular product. I have to figure out which product is best for who every single day. And I'm okay with that because it gives me a challenge and it helps me know Qualtrics a little bit more. I didn't even realize that I've actually used Qualtrics before.
You had?
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure when I was at school, there was like something that said powered by Qualtrics in the corner.
Oh, so it was powering like
Yeah.
it's interesting, like if you land at a good tech firm, you might be surprised at how they power the world. Like when I was at Oracle, a lot of the world runs on Oracle. Of course, you have AWS, Amazon now, and even like companies like Qualtrics that are top companies, category leaders. Like I was at a bachelor party in New Orleans, and I was at Starbucks, and I see Oracle on the POS system where you're checking out, and I see it in Vegas, and so it's just interesting. Like, so that's kind of a cool thing to be at a company like Qualtrics and know that it's powering it. Is it customer experience focused, by the way?
It's
A lot of companies.
it's more so like just experience management in general. So it's more than just customer experience, employee experience. We also have like a research services like component as well. But if people just want something more like basic, that's where we just offer like the more, it's called core, where we'll just give them like if they just want a certain number of responses, but they don't need too many. It's for like typically smaller businesses, smaller companies or nonprofits. They'll be better for that. But if they are a bigger company like enterprise or like maybe like a bigger corporate company, then that's where we can explore the other avenues of the other products that we have.
Okay. And so I'm going to want to ask you a little bit about things like the difference between an inbound SDR and a outbound in the day in the life and that stuff. But I wanted to go back to how you got the job. And I have one umbrella question. It's like, what are your top couple tips of the things that made the biggest difference for you? And so maybe we'll start there.
The biggest difference as far as me getting the job?
Okay. When we look at the whole process of getting a job in tech sales, and you hit on some already, LinkedIn and resume optimization, those are your assets, right? You might build a 90-day plan, cold call flow as well. You can tailor to different companies. Your networking. Also, by the way, you got to figure out what are your top options and companies you want to target. Clearly, you had a personal connection to in your gut. You felt Qualtrics and Trent inspired you, and he was there. And so networking, and then there's interviewing, and then negotiating. And so if we look at the whole spectrum of breaking in, which is a lot, like what were your top couple things that made the biggest difference? For example, like, and just to throw this out there, I've noticed that like networking and the way you interview is very powerful and maybe even like more important than a pretty resume.
Oh yeah.
But like, so could you tell me what you saw to be the most important across the board, the whole like breaking in process?
The most important across the board was definitely not just looking at your LinkedIn and your resume and just thinking that's all it takes, but taking those things and making yourself your brand, right? Now, when I first heard that, I didn't understand exactly what that meant because whenever you start interviewing, you're not just interviewing, you're also selling yourself to them. So, who are you? What you like? And also, they like to see that you have a personality. Like, it should not just be in just your interview, but it can also be on your LinkedIn. Like, for instance, like, I didn't want to have like a regular, headshot. Now, a lot of people with the headshot, they have difficulties. Your headshot will definitely make or break you. People don't think that. But it's like you can't, have a headshot and then like have like your car in the background or like your kitchen or something like that. But people are like, oh, I can't afford that. It's like, if you want something bad enough, you'll make it happen. I took mine in my mom's room and I edited it myself, looked at YouTube videos on how to edit it. I made it happen. And then I made it pink because I love pink. Because I wanted to showcase that I'm creative and I have, like a more fun personality. So I wanted to show that I could culturally fit in essentially. just knowing that I'm not just this like plain Jane kind of person. I'm more like, hey, in your face,
I'm
how are
Kenny.
you doing? And
I'm
so
Coach
that worked
Kenny.
out a lot for me. Um,
I
but
love
yeah, because it's like people just don't really consider that and wonder why they don't really get like interviews or why they don't go to like the next round.
I think one of the greatest ways to escape competition, especially in a competitive job market, is to be fully ourselves and show
Hmm.
our authenticity, our rough edges. I mean, I'm certainly a quirky guy, and that's what got me into Google, because like a company like Google really does value that. And so maybe one day you'll end up there, by the way. But I mean, hey, shoot.
Maybe.
By the way, quick disclaimer, like you work at Qualtrics, I'm at Beston. Like I think I'm supposed to say this, our opinions are not like representative of the companies we work at. I feel like I should say that. I someone recently on the channel that's like, hey. But anyways, so I lost my train of thought. So let's get back on the a
Okay.
different track, which is can you talk about the interview process and some of the questions we kind of alluded to earlier that you got that were behavioral questions? Just it's just helpful to get some real world perspective on that.
Yeah, so this is why I appreciate CourseCareer so much, and it has improved so much in the past year. But they made sure to prepare me for any possible, like, more technical and more hard questions, right? But when I got to my particular interview process, it was just behavioral. Like, if you were, like, say, for instance, a question more so like, let's say that you're presenting an issue with a customer and they're upset. How would you de escalate that? Or say for instance, like another good question would be, can you describe a time where you overcame a really difficult situation and how you did it? Or how you just basically how you can take a situation and turn it around for the better. They're going to ask you those things on the spot and you have to be able to come up with something on the spot. Luckily, I've already had a lot of those happen to me, but not just in my work life, just life in general. They didn't specifically say like, at job at well, they did for one question, but they more so also went towards like this maybe in your personal life. What's something difficult that you might have overcame in like a certain amount of time. They also asked me like a I don't even know how to describe this type of question, but it was more so like a question if I was to ask you, Chris, ha- um let's say you have like a cup this big.
Okay.
How many dimes do you think would fit in this cup?
Yeah. So they
Something
asked
like that.
at Qualtrics.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily that question, but I just came up with my own example. I really could not remember what my
Wow.
question
So,
was.
so they're basically because at Google they ask the consulting questions as well, like just
Mm.
and it's like showing your problem solving abilities. I have some thoughts on that, but like, do you have any guidance to the audience when you get like a tricky question like that? Like just your high level advice.
I would essentially say don't just immediately answer it. Take a moment and be like, let me think about that for a second, but don't take too long. Don't take too long. And just usually when you're in high pressure situations like that, you'll be able to just think of something. Like it doesn't have to be work related or it can be possibly in your personal life, but it's more so like even if the answer is not the exact answer, they just want to see how you think. You don't have to say
Exactly right.
exactly how many are in the cup. You just have to think critically. You have to be able to show that you are thinking critically and not just wanting to answer the question for the sake of answering the question to get to the next question of the interview because the question intimidates you. Yeah, because I was like, I still don't know if I was right for that
And
question that they asked, but still.
and that's the key is it's not about being right.
Mhm.
It's your critical thinking skills. How do you approach solutions to problems?
Mhm.
And so what you described is great advice. And it's
Yeah.
like you could ask, like you said, don't jump to answer too quickly. Just take a pause, ask some clarifying questions, make some assumptions. Like, oh, maybe I don't know if you said a dime or penny is like this, like I don't know. You could I forget my like math, of like the finding the
That's all
certain.
right.
But there's a way to like you could show your thought patterns of like how you calculate like how big's the container, and then come up with something. I remember I think Google would ask about how many balls in an airplane type thing. So that's
I've
a
heard that one before. I
Yeah.
have definitely heard that one before. Luckily, they
Kenny,
didn't ask me that.
it's really helpful though, like to bring up something like that, because if someone who's listening right now is about to go through the process with Qualtrics or another competitive company, they could start to noodle on like, how would I, at least, like, you might not know the question you're going to get, but what's my framework for answering? Like, I will not rush to answer. I'll ask clarifying questions, create some assumptions, provide a few different solutions. So that's helpful. You mentioned a few others, not that we need to go into all of them and like how you would answer them, but I think you said, tell me about a time you completed like something or achieved a goal in a certain amount of time. Was that high level? Was that a question you got?
It definitely was, and it was one of my favorite questions to answer because I've described myself as someone who loves people and everything like that. So it's especially, it's also about how you're saying it, like your tone. Like, speak passionately about it, because if you speak passionately about it, that means that you actually do have a passion for solving other people's problems and that you can work well with other people. So it's more so like, don't just say, oh yeah, the customer came in upset, I answered her question, she wasn't upset anymore. Like, dive deeper into that, gather more details from that. Like we need more as to how you did it. Even you can even describe how I described how my hug I got was. It actually hurt. That's how hard I got hugged when I was a leasing agent this one time at my
Wow.
old apartment complex. You have to just think outside of the box with questions like that, because you have to make yourself sound good, because once again, you are representing yourself, which is also goes into the fact that when I said you are representing your own personal brand, you are your personal brand. Yeah.
This is really good because some of the folks that I've worked with in a mentorship and coaching capacity, I've seen have their heart broken a few times, and then they eventually push through and they got a great job. But some of the reasons they didn't make through the final round, like feedback for one individual, was that they didn't give enough concrete detail. So it made the executive, the VP of business development, question kind of how legitimate their experience was. So I think you kind of hit on that, but really being vivid as much as possible, like not over talking, but giving concrete like examples and details, not just talking like that first example you gave, like super high level, like I did this and this, and this is what happened. So, and I think that if we can, and you're great at this, like power our stories with emotion and a twinkle in our eyes, and we were excited about that achievement. I remember how it felt, like that authenticity and that passion, man, people buy emotionally and are drawn in emotionally through stories. So helpful to hear how you thought about answering that question. It's not like we have to go into the specific achievement. But any other questions that you think are like absolutely critical to knock out of the park? Like, why do you want to work for this company? I'm just giving you a few ideas, or like what does Qualtrics do? Like, were there any other like questions that you think like, hey, you got to absolutely knock this out of the park regardless of the company you apply to?
Let me think for a second. My cat just got really mad at me because I'm not paying him any attention.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll do that too.
see, mine were just more so behavioral. So it's like, if I honestly also after my interview just Googled behavioral questions, and a
Yeah,
bunch of good examples came up instead of
yeah,
just like, that was another, because I also made sure to ask questions at the end of each interview, like what type of interview is going to be next and what can I
Right.
expect, and they told me every time. And
Oh,
also smiling, please smile.
like this.
You don't have to like,
Yeah,
you just have to be like, yeah, like how we're talking right now. We're
yeah,
having a very good conversation, and we're having a very engaging conversation.
yes.
An interview is not just an interview, it is a conversation. And once people start looking at it like that, they're like, oh, like the interview wasn't nothing. I was nervous for nothing. I hit that out of the park, like
Mhm.
I did good. Like, and I felt like that every time I interviewed. And I wanted to better prepare myself for behavioral questions because I knew they weren't going to tell me which questions. But Google,
Mm,
YouTube, I'm pretty sure I looked at one of Patrick Dang's videos about interview questions to see if there was anything in there along those parameters. Now, his were more high level, but it was a very good video anyway, because I was able to tie in those Google
yeah,
behavior questions and then that video and then get a better
you
understanding of
got
what
me
types of questions
inspired.
they asked.
I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
video on like in depth. I'll follow up with you offline to get some advice on what you think. Like, I
As
want
you
to go all
should.
out, do a bunch of
Yeah.
questions. So So basically what you're saying is you increased your odds of success by doing your homework and detective work to get an idea of the questions and formulate your answers to the test. So like you're on Google, and YouTube. Did you use Glassdoor at all to like figure out like?
Thank you for mentioning that, because I knew there was something. Because in my coaching calls, I tell people, like, have you ever heard of someone say like mass apply on on LinkedIn, and then and then just keep going?
Yeah.
And I tell everybody that does my coaching session, do not do that.
Amen. Same here.
Do not do that. Like, when I tell people I maybe only applied to maybe like max 5 companies and got a job, I Glassdoored I signed up for an account. I Glassdoored every company I want to apply to. I made a list first. Don't get me wrong. Yes, make a list. Look them up, and I guarantee you're going to cut down your list by a good 90%. Like, there's no reason why you should have 100 applications put in 1 week. You don't even know if you actually want to work there. You haven't even seen what employees have said. You haven't seen the ratings. You haven't seen what benefits they offer. You can see that on Glassdoor. Like, breaks my heart people do that, but I'm like, please stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not effective nor efficient.
Yeah, I think that there's a book called Essentialism, which is the disciplined pursuit of less but better. And essentialists, they do explore their options, maybe more than others, so that they then can simplify their options to the most meaningful opportunities. And I love that you were intentional and you really prepared as much as you could to differentiate yourself in the process and really almost guarantee your success. Some people are spraying and praying, and they're also, a good point you made is they're, maybe coming from a place of desperation and not considering that you need to be picky. Even if you have no experience, I know there's a little imposter syndrome, but be picky and only apply to companies that you could see yourself working at. And in the process, evaluate them. Are they a good fit for you? Like, are the reps hitting quota? Do they have a good culture? Are they going to invest in your success? And I know it can be hard to do that when you don't have experience. And look at me, I've been in this space for a while. You've been in this space now. So it's much easier to be saying like, oh, don't have imposter syndrome. But I think being picky and evaluating them in the sales cycle, that is the application process, is important. So were there any questions that you asked that in your interview process to, I guess, evaluate the companies you were applying to?
I definitely asked about culture and diversity.
Yep.
That was the main one, because another huge red flag, especially on LinkedIn, when you're applying on LinkedIn, I also tell them, if you come to me and say you applied on Indeed, I'm going to have a problem with that. Stop doing that. But if the company itself, me personally, in my opinion, if the company itself does not have a good LinkedIn presence, I stay away from them.
That's a great sign or piece of advice to look at that.
Yeah, I stay away from. I figured that out along the way, though. I was like you only have 10 employees. Also, Glassdoor. Also, I was using Crunchbase as well, and AngelList, but a startup versus like an actual company. Startups are for probably more risky people, because the other company that I was applying for was a startup. I didn't really want to take that risk per se. I wanted, a more established company with a great LinkedIn presence. I saw like all the pictures. There's a basketball court in like the headquarters in Provo. I was like, that is lovely. They bring their dogs in the office. Has anyone brought a dog in our office? No, but they do that. But it's an option. I think they skateboard in my office. Like, that was enough for me. That. Yeah, we have massage chairs and like little walking treadmill things in there. I was like, oh, I picked the right one. I was so excited about that. But I definitely asked about culture and diversity. I asked about like, what are the employees doing like when they're not working, things of that nature, or what is the social life like? Are the employees hanging out with each other outside of work? And all of the answers were very positive. So when I got there, I remembered all of those questions that I asked, and I wanted to be able to see, was that the case? It was 100% the case. They definitely hang out after work. They definitely make sure that there is culture and diversity there that makes sense. Not like just to have it, but it's there. And they also have opportunities within the org to be able to do like volunteer work or even do like panels or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure that if I'm at a company, I'm growing and I can also represent the company as a minority. And I just basically took a risk on that before I finished my interview process. But now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is exactly what I wanted. If I wanted to take that risk and apply to a startup and work at a startup, I would. But I wanted to get that more corporate in office experience first. And maybe years and years from now, if I want to go to a startup, then I will. But I'm very happy where I'm at right now because that's what I needed. This is what I wanted. Love
Mm.
my coworkers. I have amazing coworkers. I also really like to make my coworkers laugh. They think I'm pretty funny. But that's just me in general. I like to make people laugh.
Yeah.
So that I was even making them laugh in like the interview. Like, and also the people that interviewed me, I work in the office. Well, some of them I work in the office with them. I still make them laugh
Oh,
because
that's so sweet.
I
You know,
love
it
them.
reminds me of something, Kenny, that I think is one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give anyone when interviewing. It's to focus on like getting off ourselves and creating an amazing experience for your interviewers. What if it wasn't about us and all about them? And you know, how do you create a great experience? Maybe you ask great personal questions, get them feeling good about why they love the company and the opportunity.
That too.
You know, and you let the recruiter do their job. They have a job. Like I talked to the recruiter at my company. I interview different people in my current 9 to 5. And he's like, sometimes people just will talk so much, he can't even ask all his questions. And that could happen to the hiring manager too. So being empathetic and making them laugh is that made me think of this tangent. Cause I mean, if you can make them laugh, that's a gift. That's a positive emotion. I love that. It's like generous. And that's also you being authentic, Kenny. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like that brings me back to when I got the call that I got the job. The first thing I saw was this, like right before I answered the phone, I saw this blue butterfly land in front of me and it just sat there.
oh,
And I was on the phone call, just trying not to cry. I loved my recruiter. She was amazing. Loved her. But once I hung up the phone and I stood there, I looked at the butterfly again and the butterfly just flew off. And I was like, I see what, hello. Like this was nice. It was nice and sunny outside. It felt good. I was like, oh, I just changed my life in like a couple months. And I've been in
oh
my
my
mom's house for like 2 years, not knowing what I want to do. Do I really want to be in kinesiology? Do I want to be a personal trainer? Do I want to be a physical therapist? Do I want to go into business? I was originally taking real estate classes. That was another thing. I was investing in classes to be able to become a realtor because I was not sure if I would even be able to move to Texas. And Louisiana and Texas have completely different laws for everything, especially real estate. And I just was like, well, I got this job, so I have to throw real estate away. And so I was also connected a lot, like it goes back to networking. Like I'm still networking. I'm networking with more people, but Sharif is one of the main people that I was
God.
connecting with. You know, okay, good. I wanted to make sure you knew Sharif. I love Sharif. He's great. Um, makes really good content, but he was also in real estate, but he switched to tech sales. So I found that to be a sign like, oh, I should just not worry about real estate because with real estate, it's like you have to be on go all the time. And my stepmom is a realtor and I do love homes and everything like that, but I kind of like the security of being able to just be in an office and still be in sales and still get that entrepreneurial feel without having to just go do all that extra work, show up to houses by myself, not really sure if it's safe, and then we're in a crashing, like real estate right now, you never know.
Oh yeah.
And the economy, you just never know. So I just was like, okay. So I was just like, well, let me put that on the back burner. Let me put my options trading on the back burner. I'm about to start getting back into that again. I really want to learn how to trade at some point, like for real this time, and have it as another stream of income. Because even though I have this job, a lot of people I work with do not have just one income. Tech sales gives you that ability to have a 9 to 5, but still have that entrepreneurial type of vibe to it.
Yes, exactly right. And I just think like tech sales is one of the greatest paths to true financial freedom. And I think of financial freedom is like you have passive income coming in
Mm-hmm.
where you don't have to work. You have enough to cover your living and expenses. And you start out like you are and you learn the skills, you start making good money pretty quickly, and then you move up, you're making deep six figures. Some people, I haven't done it, make over $1 million a year selling enterprise SaaS solutions or selling for a company like a platform like Oracle or Google Cloud. And it's like amazing to see like Brandon Fluharty, who's one of my mentors, and maybe you'll get connected with him at some point. Happy to make an
I would
introduction.
love to.
Yeah, he retired at 43. And now the cool thing is like you learn the skills, you make a lot of money, you take that money and now you're the investing in real estate. You're investing in like one of my buddies.
Want to do that.
One of my buddies is Tech Sales Tom. Do you know Tech Sales Tom?
I do. He followed me on TikTok, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Tom."
Okay. If you ever want to
I've never spoken to him though. I do.
Yeah, I can get you connected and shout out to Tom. He was on my team at Google Cloud. And so he was a Google Cloud, then he went to AWS and he started this thing, and he has a background of immigrant parents and didn't have connections in tech. Well, I saw Tom talking about buying a pickleball court. Like he has just destroyed it. And I know you're blowing up on TikTok, so I got to take some notes because I've not mastered that game.
I can help.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And guys, make sure to follow Kennie on TikTok, on Instagram, and connect on LinkedIn. She's a great resource, and hey, maybe she could be your future coach as well. But do you have, I forget, do you have YouTube?
I will this weekend.
Cool.
I'm attempting to make my first video this weekend. I have a hard deadline of this weekend. I'm trying to do my thumbnail and everything right now. I've taught myself how to use CapCut. So that should be coming very soon.
Well, you know what? Let's put that on the tickler. I've linked everything, all of Kennie's socials in the description of this video. To the people who have joined live now, we got 7. It's gone up to 9, bouncing up and down. Thank you for being here. I see Des. She is awesome. Des. I see Tech Job Tina. Love that. Zach said, Zach Allen says, what up?
That's my bestie. Hey.
We got a good crew here. Okay, we just jumped in. Let's go. So I do think, though, you hit on something. A bold statement, but I believe that tech sales is the single greatest career for someone who doesn't know what they want to do in their life, but they're a dreamer and they want to reach their full potential. They want financial freedom. They want meaningful relationships. They want to grow into the most badass version of themselves. It's basically unstoppable. If you can pick up a phone and make cold calls to strangers and make things happen that wouldn't have otherwise, imagine if you could apply that to a charity you want to start, or, writing a book. It's not a best selling, or it is, I messed it up. It's not a best writing author. It's not a best writing author. It's a best selling author, right? You could have the most beautifully written book that could impact so many people, but if you can't sell and market, come on. So anyways, I think you hit it head on the nail. Like, you didn't know exactly what you wanted to do, but you broke in, and now you're developing skills that will serve you if you do want to start a company, or the capital to invest in real estate. And who knows, if you wanted to shift into an analyst role, I've seen SDRs or AEs shift in those roles, or more technical roles too. But I still have a few other questions around your interview experience, but what is your vision for where you want to be? Like, how do you want to ride this wave to, like, what are you going to be manifesting?
I don't even know. Like, I really still don't even know what an analyst does. But I'm open to everything. Like, I was really obsessed, not gonna lie, with Cyrus's content at one point. I really wanted to do sales engineering, but then I saw that $4,000, and I was like, no, I'm not about to do that. I don't have $4,000 to do careerist. I'm not doing that right now. I'm like, is there another way I could probably try sales engineering? I'm open to everything. I'm really not entirely sure. Like, if I can get in like bigger consulting roles, I would love to do that. I just really want to see myself in a place to where I am like a bigger face in the company. However I'm going to do that, it's fine. Where I see myself maybe like the next 5 years, married, nice house, maybe. No kids yet, hopefully, but eventually, right. I need to travel. I do need to travel.
I don't know. You're giving everything up, and that's the most beautiful sacrifice.
Yeah. I am not ready for that.
Pets.
I have him, and that's all I need. Yeah. But I also, speaking of which, you mentioned a charity. I have always had this idea in my head, like when I was a kid, that I was going to start my own like nonprofit for kittens and cats, like just being able to rescue them and get them adopted and things of that nature. Like, I wanted to have my own kitten farm as a kid. I low-key still want my own kitten farm. Like, I really do, because cats, they breed a lot. They sometimes end up not making it out in the wild and everything like that. So I kind of wanted to have like my own like type of rescue deal, like where I can find people that are willing to foster in different areas, or even like get people connected to be able to get them adopted and everything like that, because I love cats. I like dogs, just not as much as I love cats though. So I just wanted to keep it at just one particular animal. But if I can have that happen, then great. But if I can just be a part of something that's already established like that, then I'm willing to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that for you. And I can't imagine how it's going to feel when you look back and on a conversation like this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the thing. The dream has happened. I'm working with these kittens. I got my own company. Or as you said, I'm part of an organization that supports these little cuties. It's all possible. And I really believe in like the power of, it's a buzzword, but like manifestation and setting a vision, using all of the senses, to feed the subconscious mind imagery, which it loves, that is in alignment with what the conscious mind wants, And so I just remember when I got my job at Google, I did, I was committed. I burned the ships. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, who was amazing, but I was in Boston. I'm like, I'm going to Austin.
Oh, okay.
Google. And so meaning and it ended well, but meaning burning the ships to like focus on the vision that I set for myself. I prepared for a month, like networked with people to get answers to questions, but I also wrote down my reasons why Google and Austin on a piece of paper that I read every day. And I actually visualized myself with a smile on my face in the office. And so I'm curious, like, I have a feeling you're kind of into this stuff, like manifesting, but like, I also don't want to put words in your mouth. That was my experience.
No,
But
you're definitely right. Yes. I was actually, I was really deep into zodiacs and crystals at one point when I was living with my mom. I had nothing better to do, but I realized over time, like everything I've ever, not everything, but a majority of what I have wanted, I've gotten. Like I remember at one point I was like, I want an iPad. I ended up getting an iPad. Oh, I want another iPad. I got an iPad. I wanted a MacBook. I got a MacBook. I have two now, but one's company provided.
Hey.
I wanted a car. Got a car. I wanted my first apartment by myself. I got that. But a lot of people think that if you just say like I want these things, that's enough. You have to have a game plan on how you're going to get it. Like for instance, my job is how I knew I was going to get those things. What is it going to take for me to get the job first though? It's baby steps. Baby steps. Baby steps. Is that
It's
Shay?
literally,
Hey Shay.
hey,
All my
Shay.
friends are in here.
Hey,
But
no.
yes, like manifestation is very, very, very real. And you also have to, people think that you have to be positive all the time to want to manifest something. No, you can be at your absolute lowest and still manifest something. You'd be like, I really want this. And
Man,
you're going to be mad enough and be like, I'm going to go get that by any means necessary.
that's powerful to think,
Oh, yeah.
even at your low point, like you're capable of so much. And it's interesting how anger, anxiety, these emotions that we label as bad can actually be used constructively to catalyze our dreams, and make them happen. So, I love talking manifestation, and clearly the audience is in alignment. And imagine what we could all manifest together if we like supported each other and like got and I really want to build a community through this channel. And of course, conversations will be sparked afterwards, maybe with the folks here that reach out to you that I haven't met you, or reach out to me. But I really want to build that and have a group of people that are committed, like they believe that their dreams are possible and they know it's available in an abundant and giving world.
Oh yeah, no, it's good you brought that up because I was trying to figure out a way to like start like my own community of people that are either just starting out or just want to further network and everything like that. But at the same time, I was like, is that oversaturated? But I was like, not technically. You can never have too many communities.
You can't have too many communities, and you have so much to offer. And I'm just reminded of that in this conversation. And there's so much, like, even though maybe I have more experience on paper, but there's like so much I'm learning from you in this conversation. You bring a fresh perspective, and you're very close to like making that leap, So for me, that was 8 years ago, and now I work with a lot of folks, but you just made that happen, and you're that poster child, right? So I think you can't have too many programs or coaching coaches or communities, as long as that authenticity is at the core of it, and so I'm going to launch we talked offline, eventually a website, and my editor, she's amazing, but she's been ghosting me lately, and I need to get it done, but I'm creating this thing called the Mentor Network that I'd love for you to be a part of. But
Of
even then,
course.
it's like you build your community too, and like there's ways to synergize. So I love CourseCareers. You mentioned them, and Troy and Trent and Cyrus. At some point, I need to meet him. I haven't connected with him, but I love. I
Please,
think.
if you meet Cyrus, please let me know. I want to meet him so bad.
Oh yeah, hey, but reach out for sure. Like manifest that.
It's so many messages. He's not gonna see.
I know, but you got to shoot your shot, and eventually, it's inevitable. You will, like, based on what you're doing and giving out your authentically.
Yeah,
You
if
will.
I grow more, I think he'll notice me a lot more.
Yeah, and it's funny how sales can apply to networking and like building our network, even just like around our personal brands and side hustles and things. And a lot of it is just have that personal touch and that authenticity that you bring to the table and framing opportunities in people's world. It's like, what does he care about? How could you bring value to him? And there's probably some really like even subtle ways. And what's funny though is I have a vision for this channel to be kind of like impact theory, like Tom Billio, and there's like certain channels that are pretty big that have great guests on, like yourself and others I've had. And there's I want to have like some very famous people on here, like Tim Ferriss or Ryan Holiday. Do you know Ryan Holiday? He's an
I've heard
author.
of Ryan Holiday.
So he's he wrote The Obstacles to the Way. He's like a stoic, modern day stoic philosopher basically, and he was a VP of marketing at American Apparel. And when I was at Google, he did a talk at Google, and I shook his hand and I said, hey, like at the time I had like 200 subscribers and still have a long way to go, but I'm like, I'd love to have you on my channel. And he was in Austin. I asked him for coffee and he said no. He just gave a talk about like saying no more, but he said follow up with me via email. And so I actually did, and he's like, grow your channel first and we'll talk. And the funny thing is I've grown it a lot, and I reached back out, he's corresponded with me, but that eventually will happen, to our point of like connecting with Cyrus or other people. I think if you're pleasantly persistent, eventually things happen. And shout out to Ryan Holiday. He's in Austin, not far off from me. Eventually gonna have you on. So it's going to be great. It'd be cool to, I just love the last thing I'll say and turn it back over to you is I like the intersection of things like psychology and philosophy, like stoicism and sales. Have you found that have you gotten more into psychology since you got into sales? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but have you found that to be the case?
Oh, Chris, I've been in psychology for years. Like I am a very psychological person. Pretty sure my best friend's going to say something in the chat because he mentioned something about social anxiety, which I'm going to touch on. You believe it or not, I actually have social anxiety.
Really?
I do.
Such a natural, confident person. So that's so encouraging to people out there that, you could struggle with that and still show up the way you do.
I was not always like that though. I was not always like this. I didn't really start getting super confident until college. I really don't know what it was, but when I started interacting with people, I noticed that people liked being around me and things of that nature. I was like, oh, okay. So I got more confident over time. I got a lot of people saying, I really like your vibe. You're really cool. You don't act like most girls. And I honestly feel like, because they don't really see a lot of girls that are into what I'm into, like anime, for instance, or that I play video games, or that I do things that are typically more male driven, like I'm in sales. Like after all that, I realized, what? It's really not even that difficult, but you just have to basically come off that you don't have it. And then, my best friend, he was like, you mentioned the social anxiety, right? But he does the same thing I do. Like whether he knows it or not, he's exactly like me as far as like talking to people. Like people will go up to him and just be like, oh, even people that he doesn't even know. Like, yes, he's so nice. I love him. Like once you just realize that people are more willing to talk to you if you have not necessarily a super bubbly attitude, but a very down to earth attitude, like a very welcoming Southern hospitality is what I like to kind of call it. I like to exude an auntie vibe, if you will. I like to make people feel welcome and like they feel heard, because I know what it feels like to like not really necessarily feel heard. And I wanted to shift that narrative in my life because I didn't want to always be like that shy, girl like that's like doesn't really like to talk and doesn't really put much into how she looks and things of that nature. And then once I started to switch that narrative, I got more positive feedback from people, and I wanted to keep getting that positive feedback. So once you make a change to like yourself, like a full rebrand, that's when you realize that it's like you kind of forget that you have social anxiety. It just becomes natural to you over time.
So it's like you went through a transformation or like a metamorphosis, like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, not just like changing something like a hairstyle, but you really transformed and bloomed into the best version of yourself. And that's always a work in progress, but it's encouraging to hear that you can choose to invent like who you want to be and like just reimagine who you are. And that's super encouraging. You're very inspiring. And that's one thing I loved since connecting with you a while back was that you have a holistic approach to, being successful in a tech sales role and selling, but also you bring the mindset to the table. I was going to shoot. Wow, this time flew. We said like 10 minutes left. It's not like we have a hard
even
stop.
50 minutes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think this is one of the fastest interviews I've ever had in terms of my perception of how long it's been. It's been amazing. Wow. So I wanted to talk about the day in the life and the reality of your role. The only other thing is like, I've noticed a theme, like you really are welcoming for people and create a great experience for other people that you encounter. And I'm sure this came across in the interview process. And like, were there any, this will be the last interview related thing, and then we'll talk about the role. But there things you did to create a personal connection, like subtle things or little things you did in your interviews?
Kind of like what I'm doing on the interview, like going back to like the humor thing.
Yeah.
Like just exuding my own personality and not trying to hide who I really am, essentially. Like they can hear that and they can feel it. It's like if I throw a little joke in there every once in a while, I got a lot of good feedback from there. If you are not confident in making a joke, don't make it. But I'm just a naturally funny person and I know that. But so I know I can do that. But it's like being able to just basically read the situation and be like, how can I turn this into an even more positive situation? And how can I make it work for me to where I just want to make a lasting impression to where they remember me at the end of the interview and then pass me on until I make it to the end.
Yes. Well put. I had one other interview related question or like around the process, and then we'll move on. Recruiter relationships are really important. People underestimate it. And I found when I got my job at Google, shout out to Jen, she was so amazing. I really built a personal relationship and she became my champion to help me like in the process. Like it seems like you did a great job of that. So you got more information for your next interviews. Like how did you leverage that relationship with your recruiter?
So the thing with my recruiter is she was more so like, I only talked to her on the phone at the beginning and the end of my interview process.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so like in the middle were people that were already working at Qualtrics asking me these questions because they have an opportunity at Qualtrics for you to be able to, if you work there, to ask potential employees interview questions. But like I made sure to ask her questions. Her name is Lauren. I loved her so much. I made sure to shout her out when I got my offer and everything, but I made sure to like over the phone exude like my excitement, like let her know like I am very excited about this. Thank you. And she lit up when she talked to me. Like I could hear it. I couldn't see her, but I could hear it. And it was like that when we first spoke, and it was like that when she gave me my offer. She had my number, so she was texting me certain things about the interview process, like the next steps and what I need to do, and if I had any questions, I made sure to ask questions. And she texted me and was like, I have some exciting news for you. Stay tuned. I was like, it could mean anything. Maybe I'm just going to the next round or the final round. But no,
was it all caps?
My offer letter. No.
Was the text all caps or no?
No.
Okay, got it. But still, that's when you hear
it was great.
From my Google recruiter, it was like when you get the exciting news, that's a good sign.
Oh yeah, like I heard my good signs. Yeah, it was great. I loved her, man. Just like I love that. Speaking of which, I'm going to harp on this as well. Your relationship with your manager is also I love my manager. Matt, the GOAT. Absolute GOAT. He deserves everything and more. I love him so much. And he just makes me just really want to keep going. Like I've had a rough couple of months. I've had like more so like a few deaths since I started my role here.
So sorry.
It's been kind of difficult, but having him has been like, he's kind of like I call him my work dad. He's already a dad of like 4 now, but like he just really knows how to be a manager. I have never encountered a manager like him to where I'm excited to talk to my manager. When we have our one-on-ones, I'm like, oh my God, it's time to talk to Matt. Can't wait to see you again, Matt. Our inbound team meetings. I can't wait to see you this morning. You know, like, and
So nice.
he gives us cookies and stuff. He gets us stuff. I'm like,
Wow.
thank you. I love him. I love him. I would honestly give that man a kidney. I promise.
That's such a good opportunity. That's hilarious. Kidneys. It's gonna be like a business
Oh,
now.
gosh.
If you have limited kidneys, you can do a
Oh
sustainable
yeah.
business. But anyways, that's managers make or break someone's experience in any type of company or
Mm-hmm.
role. So I'm glad you have a great manager. I'm glad you're really happy with the culture at Qualtrics, and wanted to shift to, I guess, the nature of your role, because aren't you're doing inbound versus outbound, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, so inbound, I'm already working with people that are already basically interested. They come through our email. They either sign up for a free account or they want a demo request, things of that nature. So I don't have to call them to see if they're interested. I will do that and switch to outbound sales when it's time for me to promote, which I
Yeah,
should promote in the next few months or so.
cool.
But it's like, I'm glad they did it this way. I was the only one in my cohort too. I was alone. It was December. People were on vacation. I was remote that first 3 months.
Yeah,
So those first 3 months were kind of tough doing it remote, but I'm learning everything now that I'm in the office. And it's good that they did that like that because I'm able to familiarize myself with each product because I don't have specific AEs. All of the AEs are my AEs. Like
you have
each
all of them.
product is different. Basically all of them. Like, so there's EX AEs, there's CX AEs, there's regular core XM AEs, there's research services AEs, and they span from like all over this country, right? So it's like I have to just figure out what territory the person is in and then assign them to a rep within that territory and on that account, essentially. But when I switch to outbound, I'm gonna have to, call and be like, hey, this is Kennedy from Qualtrics. I was calling to see if you had a moment of your time, things of that nature to see if they would be willing to essentially do a demo with us to be able to see if Qualtrics would be a right fit for them. So I'm learning all the products in a different way versus like if I was on outbound, I would only be in one territory. Like if I was in CX
Yes.
mid market or something, like I would only have a specific set of AEs essentially that I work with, not all of them.
I was reading a book by the Bridge Group, and I had their chief sales officer on, Sally Doobie, and she was really great. And they talk about the structure of SDR orgs and metrics and things like that, and inbound versus outbound. And it's interesting that some companies actually put the most talented people in inbound, like specifically because they're coming in and you really want to capitalize on these warm leads. And so in a way, I think it's like such a unique opportunity, and companies should be putting their best talent like yourself in these inbound roles. But of course, yeah, it's different than the outbound, which is really more of a grind, and you're going to get rejected a lot. And I'm sure you're going to crush that when the time comes. And it's good to just get a variety of experience. But what has been your experience in this role? What are the skills that you've needed to sharpen? Is it qualifying, like asking good questions? I'd love to hear kind of a little bit about that.
Honestly, I'm going to call myself out on this speed. We have something called speed to lead. So like once a lead comes in, contact them.
Yeah.
I need to work on that. Is because my brain is all over the place. Like I will start a task and then I'm like, oh, I have to finish this. I'll finish that. I'm like, I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. Not going to lie. So that,
Oh, same
and
here.
then like, oh yeah, like I need to do better. But like that, I'm not even qualifying anymore. It used to be, but I've gotten into the flow of how it works, and then I'll just send the AE a message like, hey, would this go to you, or does it need to go somewhere else, something like that. And then I had a different understanding of how it worked. Like, do I have to just manually dial each one? No, I don't. Which I was like, okay, so the job is not really hard. It's only
Yeah.
gets hard if you make it hard
Yeah.
on yourself.
One thing I think you did well is that, like, you were, again, intentional in your job search, and you ended up at a category king or queen, right? Again, referring to a company that is a leader in their space, that is mature and will give you good training. You're going to meet a lot of great people, and that you can use as a launch pad to other companies, and eventually you can dive into the startup world, and there's a huge upside, and that depends on when you have the appetite for that type of risk. But I just think you followed such a good path, and I did that myself, and I wouldn't trade it for the world when I started at Oracle. Great training, and you get a chance to get that brand recognition, and then can go to a Google, an Amazon, and a startup like where I'm at now. But do you see yourself, well, actually, hold on, pause. How has the training been at Qualtrics? Like that's just high level, because yeah, I think that'd be helpful for people to know.
I remember I was watching a video, like one of Trent's videos and someone else's videos. It might have been Patrick, I don't know, but they basically harped on like you're kind of just like thrown in there, like you get like a few, you get like some PowerPoints and introduced to, but then it's like, when it comes to this job, a majority of what you learn is simply by doing. There is no PowerPoint. There is no book. There is nothing. You just have to just do it. And I appreciated that simply because it made me feel less handicapped in like the role or whatever. It just kind of just put me out there to be like, let me put my skills to use and actually do what I can and use what I've learned so far and start my journey from here. Like it just was, I will honestly say I'm still training, and I've been here for like 6 months. But it's like myself. Yeah. Like I got onboarded, of course, they just introduced it to me. But my honestly, in sales, your training like never stops until you make the amount of money that you really want to make, and you can call yourself like a professional, essentially. Like when you know that you can do it like that, like just make a lot of money. But until then, I'm like, I will be in training until I see over 6 figures, or really over 200,000, in my opinion. Because my goal is to make over $500,000 a year in the next 5 years. Because I've seen Cyrus do it. I'm like, well, if Cyrus can do it, I can do it. Kayla's made over 250. I'm like, if she can make 250, I can make 250.
You absolutely can. Mm-hmm. You can, again, it's possible if you really want it. You could make $1 million, like Brandon Fluharty is selling at Live Person, a mature startup, later stage, selling transformational SaaS deals that is like conversational intelligence, which actually like customer facing or a solution like Qualtrics impacting the customer experience, selling to these large enterprises like JetBlue. It's possible, and you're well on your way. So I just love that you've been able to intentionally break in, build a foundation, and you recognize that you're always learning. I'm still in training, 100%. Like 8+ years later, I'm still learning. Oh, and you hit on something really important, that learning through doing is the fastest path to like growth. I had a Harvard professor, Frank Cespedes, on the channel a while back. He was really good. He writes for Harvard Business, and he's like one of their sales experts. He wrote a book, I forget, like Modern Selling or something. And he said, like the 2 top ways to learn in sales and business is modeling after mentors, and then also learning through the fire.
I need a mentor. Like, it's like, I'm noticing as I get farther like into the role, I'm like, I need like a in-company mentor, which they have those, but I also need an out-of-company mentor, like someone that I know I have direct access to, something like that. Now that I've gotten comfortable, at first I was like, let me get myself together. But now I'm like, I think I need someone that's making the money that I want to make, and that's not going to take me 10 years to do that. Exactly. A lot of people don't see me like that until like 10 years from now. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be that person.
Yeah. A mentor, like mentors want to help. And if you can just show you're implementing their advice and then celebrate the wins with them, that is the greatest gift. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel of success. Like there are people that have gone before and done it, and it will, like you said, accelerate your growth and your success. And I'm in your corner. Definitely reach out to Cyrus, reach out to, hey, Trent. Like I encourage all of you guys out there to have the courage to put yourself out there and reach out to mentors, make it personal. Hey, it doesn't hurt to flatter if it's authentic, and shoot the shot. And if anything, even like you might just get an acknowledgement and a response. So it's so worth it, because if things don't work out, you're stuck where you're at. But like, I would encourage people to take the mindset of like, what could go right?
And like, I love saying that too.
right? So, okay, we can wrap up. I'm having too much fun with this conversation. We can go 2 hours, but we're at 104. I knew it'd go over. That's just destiny right there.
There we
But
go.
I wanted to ask you about your coaching. However, Marco Perusa, thanks for showing up. You mentioned a question real quick. What are your thoughts about public sector sales? Do you think it's as viable as the private sector? It's kind of like a question a little different than what we've been talking about. But yeah, public sector has, they have different ways of operating. Companies buy at different cycles than maybe commercial companies. And if you get into the public sector, it actually could be extremely lucrative. But there are certain barriers, like contractually, to be able to do business with public sector companies and meet compliance. So I'm sure the company you're at would have that squared away. But yeah, you can make bank. Like I have friends at AWS that are selling in the public sector in state and local government, some in education, and they're doing great. So, but I do like the commercial businesses. Company that isn't as slowed down by regulation is very exciting, So that's 2 cents. But Kenny, I wanted to finish up by asking you about this coaching that has just evolved. Like usually, I started coaching maybe a year or 2 ago, but I'm further down the path. Like you're already lifting people up and giving back, and that's like very inspiring. And so, what's that been like? And can you talk a little bit about your coaching?
I love doing my coaching sessions for my little hour every Saturday. I would love to. I'm thinking about doing one on Sunday too, because I can only have 5 people in there at one time to be able to talk through everything, because it's not like a webinar session. It's like I'm talking to them on Zoom and answering their questions live. One of these days I might do a webinar, but like the feedback I get from the sessions is always like really good, because they feel like they can talk to me, and they feel like they can ask me questions, and they feel like, I'm not just giving them an answer. It's like more like this interview. They're like, I have had to send Zoom links after a meeting because of how much they want to keep talking, or how much I want to keep talking.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to make sure all your questions are answered. I want to be able to see like what could be a possible roadblock for you right now, how we can get over that. And I've had so many of them say they've been mass applying and it's been hurting my feelings. They've been saying they've been on Indeed. I'm like, stop doing that, please.
Yes.
Like, he just hit me. But like, I really don't advertise my paid ones, because I remember being in that position where it's like, I really want to have coaching. Like I even want to be able to get like mentorship for some people, but it's like 150, 200, 300, 400. I'm like, I can't do that. So I had to make it as cheap as possible, but I still purposefully do not advertise it, because I know that a majority of the content that I have coming is going to go to YouTube, where it's going to just be there forever. Yeah. So I would rather people just go there. And if they just want, like some people just really want to have a private one-on-one session, that's cool. I have only done like 2, and I've been doing this since April, because I don't advertise it. I have it there.
It'll come though. It'll come just naturally from the value.
Yeah,
and as you continue to put things out there on YouTube. But I like that you empathize that folks trying to get in, like maybe they're starting at a point where they don't have a lot of funds. I mean, when I think I started out of college, I was fortunate to get right in, but I didn't have a lot of money, and like I didn't really have much at all, and still depending on dad a little bit. So back then it would have been tough. So I appreciate that you're willing to be flexible, and at the same time, like your time is very valuable, and charging like a healthy rate I think is important, because it allows you to prioritize your time, because you have the 9 to 5 and you're working with different people, and also it's good for someone to make an investment. There's more motivation and skin in the game. And I've spent like tens of thousands of dollars on leadership and personal growth seminars. Now that's a little different. But it helps that once you get into tech, like your companies like Google would at least partially fund it, because they know it's like they want to develop their people. But I'm actually a big believer in making investments in coaching and things like that. So guys, I encourage you to check out Kennie in the sense of, it sounds funny, check out Kennie, but connect with her on LinkedIn, have a conversation, follow her on Instagram. It's linked in the description of this video. On TikTok, she's blowing up. I gotta, learn. And YouTube, keep that in the back of your minds that's going to be coming out soon. And gosh, what a fun conversation.
It was very fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's not the last time we're gonna, talk like this, and I'm sure the audience would love to have you back on. again, thank you to the folks who've showed up, like 12 people. We're an hour and 9 minutes in. We could keep going. But thank you so much for your time and attention, and to the folks who join in the future that see this as it floats out into the YouTube evergreen sea. So Kenny, any other thoughts on like whether it's final thoughts of inspiration or calls to action for the audience?
Even if or when you are at your lowest, watch videos, do research, do whatever until you get to where you really want to get to. Because at first I thought I would never get where I am right now. And now I'm in this position, and now I see myself going farther, and I cannot wait to get to that point where I am financially free and able to do whatever it is I want to do and make a lot of money, to where it's like when I'm ready to start having a family and everything like that, I don't have to worry about anything. And just envision yourself in that position, and then do whatever it takes to get to it until you get there. Baby steps, because you'll have specific parts of where it's like, oh, I want to be here. Then you get there and it's like, oh, now I want to be here. Got to get there. So now I'm here. Now I got to get to like $200,000 a year somehow. I'm gonna figure it out.
To have you on when you get to that level, and it'll probably be here sooner than later. We're going to celebrate that and talk about how you did it. So what a great note to end on. That's inspiring, guys. Like, let's take some baby steps forward towards our dreams. Like Kenny said, check her out on her socials. Feel free to message her. Feel free to message me. Put yourself out there, take action, learn from mentors, and go out there and crush it. Thank you for being here. Of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well for weekly interviews and videos committed to your success in tech sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See y'all.